Hello and welcome everybody back to our YouTube channel. My name is Stephanie Michele Sweigart. I am a licensed and practicing school-based SLP out in Los Angeles, California, and my pronouns are she, her. I'm here today with SpeechTherapyPD.com. Well, welcome. Today we have a special treat for you as we sit down with Garrett Oyama, the mastermind behind an intriguing video miniseries focused CCC Conversations in Cultural Considerations. And again, this is on SpeechTherapyPD.com. And in this episode, Garrett really shares his unique insights and experiences, taking us on this thoughtful exploration of various cultural aspects that shape our world. So get ready for an engaging and insightful conversation that promises to broaden your understanding and encourage meaningful dialogue. So grab your favorite beverage, settle in, and let's dive into this enriching discussion about the diverse tapestry of cultures with Garrett Oyama. Welcome, Garrett. Thank you so much for being here with us today. It's great to see you and meet you for the first time virtually.
Great to meet you too. Yeah. Wow. Thank you for that introduction. That was fabulous.
Yes. Well, tell us a little bit about yourself. Where are you? What are you up to? What are you involved in currently?
Sure. Yeah. So my name is Garrett Oyama. I'm a SLP and a musician, and actually a little bit of just connective tissue is the reason I initially got connected to SpeechTherapyPD.com was because I was part of a course that, or I helped create a curriculum for using beatboxing for speech therapy.
Ooh.
And so I had this, I was on a podcast on the Speech Life with Caitlin. And
Yes.
then I also, they took our CEU course that we created and they put it up on SpeechTherapyPD.com. So that's how I got connected with Yumi. And she found out just through kind of hanging and getting to know each other that I lived in Tokyo, or I moved recently. So I got married.
Congratulations.
Thank you. And so I started to meet all of these awesome SLPs out here. I was in Malaysia for 3 months as well. Got to know the speech therapy community out there. And so really what kind of interested her was how maybe during this time, and especially during the pandemic when everything went digital, we, in some ways our worlds got smaller, but in some ways they really expanded. And we had, all of a sudden we had access to like the entire world. And so there's no reason not to, at least in my head, there's no reason not to sort of expand our SLP bubble that we get trapped in. I was in Los Angeles too. So California feels like its own little bubble, but like talking to people from, Malaysia and Japan, and then all the places that they're coming from at the same time, just really opened my world in so many different ways.
Wow.
And so, so I was, blessed enough to be asked by SpeechTherapyPD.com to do this little mini series. And stop me if you want me to.
I just want to say you're living the dream because it sounds amazing. Because I remember when I first started out in the field, there were opportunities to do travel assignments, and Japan was one of them. And it was working with U.S. military children on a base, I believe, in Japan. I don't remember where exactly, but I remember thinking, oh, that'd be so neat. And I couldn't actually do it because I had 2 dogs that I had at the time, and it was just this whole thing. And I was like, well, now I have these dogs and I really attach to them like children. But I often think I really missed out by not having that opportunity to do some of this travel abroad. And hearing you say this, I'm just thinking, wow, this is such a unique and amazing experience that you're living and a part of.
Yeah, it definitely feels super blessed and lucky, and it is eye-opening for sure.
Yes.
And it's wonderful to, just meet people with different ideas and kind of reassess why. But when I do speech therapy, it's like there are all these hidden assumptions that I have about how it should go, how people think, how kids think. And when I meet Japanese kids, for example, there's like a totally different cultural context. There's all these things that don't make sense to when they transfer, I guess. So yeah.
And that's where your bubble
a lot of learning.
right? And you realize,
Exactly.
yes.
Exactly.
Incredible. Okay, so let's touch back on your podcast series on speechtherapypd.com. And I was kind of hoping that if you could kind of fill us in maybe on 3 important actionable takeaways that our listeners could implement right away around this topic of cultural considerations. And just based on your experience and what you're sharing, it sounds like you are the go-to person for that.
Sure. Yeah. Well, that question, I love that question because I always like to be actionable, but it was so hard to think about, especially with this topic in particular. It's not so. I was thinking back to my episodes and I was like, oh, wow, each one was so different and it touched on a different aspect of what, you know, what things are. What's the best way to put this? When you are talking about cultural considerations, you're also talking about, like different social linguistic backgrounds, different, you're talking about teletherapy technology, you're talking about different, I guess this is part of social linguistic, but like even phonetically different, like when you're talking about bilingual, multilingual populations, how they develop. So every one of my episodes that I talked to these really amazing people was kind of talked about a different aspect of
so neat.
Broadly cultural considerations. So, but if I were to kind of try and distill that down, one would be how to reframe your role as a therapist from kind of being this teacher expert to more of a team member and more of someone who's always learning and working alongside your clients. So I think being in a place where I didn't have the same cultural background and context and talking to a lot of people who came from the same situation as well, one of the biggest tools, weapons that they had at their disposal was just this attitude of humility that they approached their clients with. So I found that to be just an important takeaway, and how to do that specifically will be more addressed in the episodes.
Okay, great.
So also, I guess understanding and appreciating that language is culturally situated. And that means it's kind of a complicated way of saying that we develop language in groups of people, and the things that the groups of people do and the ways that they see the world and cut up the world will change how language emerges. And so trying to think of a silly example, but there are so many little icons that we use, if we're doing AAC or something like that, and a lot of them, wouldn't apply. That's like a very simple use case, is that if you're working with Japanese kids, maybe they wouldn't know what and this is any kids now. I saw one recently that was like a super old phone, like a rotary phone. It's like, who knows what that is anymore?
Mm-hmm.
'Cause you don't grow up with that.
Right.
At the same time, there's phonetic differences. Like in Japanese, there's the R and L. There's no distinction between those two sounds. So that's why Japanese people have a hard time. They often do somewhere in between the R and the L, so it kind of covers both. And so that was one thing that I talk about more specifically. I can think of a few episodes where we talk about bilingual, multilingual assessment. Mm-hmm. So that's something that you'll definitely get a better idea of how to do, especially dynamic assessment. And then third would be basically how to expand your view of speech therapy by exploring differences across the globe. So, and also how to potentially work internationally via teletherapy. I talked with Tara, and I don't know her last name, Royal, who is the SIG 18 coordinator, the telepractice coordinator for ASHA. And so she goes over all the different kind of rules and regulations for doing telepractice. And she has a really cool story. She's working all over the place and Philippines and Hong Kong, and she still has all these kids that she sees, even though she lives in Colorado, I believe.
Yes, because we can do it now through the computer.
Yeah, and she even had the opportunity to meet these families and just in person and make the connection. So I thought that was so cool.
I love that. If people want to find out more about your resources or this amazing information that you have to offer, where could they find you?
Sure. I mean, you could find me at oyamaslp.com.
Okay.
I post a lot on there. Or I have some articles up there and some links to all of the rest of my social media. A lot of it's, you can also check out my social media, like my Instagram and stuff, but that's more music based. There is some SLP stuff as well.
We see the personal side of you too, right? Not just the
professional
side.
You know, I like that too. A lot of these things, there's a lot of personal stories, which I thought was really cool. I feel like the power of stories is more important than just propositions sometimes. So I feel like a lot of the guests that I talked to also had some really, really moving personal narratives that I think reflect these deep, important values that we should hold as SLPs. So,
and it's interesting you say that, because when I think about things that I read, even if it's nonfiction, and there's personal stories that are shared in the mix, those are the things that sort of stick in my brain afterwards, where they're sharing the stories about their challenges or their difficulties that they face or the experiences that they had or these positive outcomes. I think those stories are what really cement in my brain long after I've read the book, more so than the other stuff. So yeah, story for me is very powerful, and I think it's everything. I think stories, yeah.
Absolutely. Yeah, I talk about this in the series actually, but like way in Greek, ancient Greek times, they considered that, you know, they had the mythos and the logos, and the mythos is, you know, basically our word for myth, where that came from, and story. And they thought that, you know, and logos, let's just say, is like, you know, just propositional knowledge, like, you know, you need to do this test for this kid, whatever, you know. And when you have story, they felt was the real truth of the world, the most powerful truth that you can get at. And because, you know, when you tell a story, it provides context, and it provides it lets you inhabit a situation, so it becomes really meaningful, you know, because you can see yourself doing that thing. You can apply it to your life in some meaningful way. And so I think hopefully, because these conversations were full of personal narrative and stories, hopefully there'll be some meaningful nuggets for people to.
Oh, they will, for sure. I have no doubt about that. Thank you so much for bringing those forward too, and for all of the different episodes. How many total are there?
There's 6 episodes.
6. Okay.
And they're all quite different. I would say for people really interested in telepractice specifically, the episode with Tara was really great. For people interested in specific countries, Marsha is basically, she's like the mayor of Japan here, but she has been in Japan for like 60 years, something like that. Had a conversation with her, and she put together essentially like the ASHA of Japan for like foreign speaking therapists over here.
Fabulous. Yeah.
I spoke with Lorna, who is from Kenya. She's a Kenyan therapist, and she has the biggest practice in Kenya right now.
You're meeting amazing people. This is
so incredible. You know, like, so blessed to be able to
their
speak
living
with them.
room with your podcasts, right? With your episodes, sit down and feel like we're sitting there with them, hearing this conversation.
Right. And part of it too is, I just wanted to, you know, people get tired, and I know the feeling of burnout for sure. So you could take a little vacation overseas, meet some people. I just think they're all really amazing individuals too. So
awesome.
Yeah.
Thank you. Thank you so much. And thank you for taking the time. I know you mentioned it's 7:30 in the morning in Tokyo. It is almost, well, it was 7:30 when we started this. It's almost 3 p.m. in LA. So it must be almost 8 a.m. over where you are.
Yep.
What a great way to start your day with us. We appreciate you. What a great day for a great way for us to start our days with you is what I meant.
No, same here, of course.
And we appreciate you so much. So thank you for everybody who is listening to take a deeper dive into this topic and to further your education. Be sure to check out this video mini series that we're talking about, CCC Conversations in Cultural Considerations, on speechtherapypd.com with presenter Garrett Oyama. Thank you, Garrett, for your contribution to our field and to the collective world. We appreciate you.
It's an honor. Thank you. Thank you again.
And for everybody listening, for other topics, when you subscribe to speechtherapypd.com, you're going to get 1-year access to over 900 live and on-demand courses, and you're going to earn those ASHA CEUs. If you're new to speechtherapypd.com, no worries. You can go over to the site and access a free course. See below for details. If you found this video helpful, go ahead and give it a thumbs up. We will see you back here next week as we're answering more of those golden questions that SLPs and SLPAs are asking, and we have the answers for you.